Things just took a sickening turn for the Houston Rockets as a trade for Kevin Durant has now gone haywire and a brand new team has emerged as the frontrunner to land the NBA superstar. Find out all the latest on KD right here on Rockets Digest. Welcome in, everybody. I am Jace Andrews. I appreciate you joining us. If you're new, hit that subscribe button. We cover the Rockets daily here with the latest news, rumors, and reports. And on today's show, we talk about Kevin Durant. He has been a major topic, especially since Shams Charania dropped a bombshell yesterday saying that it is likely that he will be traded within the next couple days, at least by the end of next week. And we got this headline this morning. Kevin Durant, T-Wolves trade buzz reportedly building amid Rockets and Heat rumors. So if you don't know, we got a list from Shams Charania on the top 5 teams still contending in the Kevin Durant sweepstakes. Those 5 teams, right now not in any particular order, the Houston Rockets, the San Antonio Spurs, the Miami Heat, the Minnesota Timberwolves, and at the very back end, the New York Knicks. It seems as though now it has taken out the Knicks, and it is just the 4 teams in the Spurs, T-Wolves, Heat, and of course, the Rockets. And so, these were the odds that we had not 2 days ago. The Heat, they'd had a little bit of a bump from 1,000 to plus 250, but the Spurs were at 100, the Timberwolves were at 400, Rockets still in there at 600. And again, at the bottom part, a Durant deal appears imminent within the next 72 hours. This was not a day ago. Here is what the new favoring odds say. The Timberwolves are now minus 110 to acquire Kevin Durant. Heat are plus 220, Spurs are plus 350, and the Rockets are now plus 700. It seems as though that Durant will be traded within the next 2 days, and it seems like the Rockets aren't going to be that team after all. Now, there's still a lot to talk about, and we go into a report here from Adam Wells of Bleacher Report saying, quote, on the latest episode of the Zach Lowe Show, The Ringers, Zach Lowe reported the Timberwolves are generating increased buzz as a potential Durant landing spot, end quote. Now, I stop here to say that Kevin Durant has said he would like to end up in Texas. Whether that's with Houston or San Antonio, he never really set a preference. But there's no state income taxes. Both the Spurs and the Rockets. Some of the Rockets had the 52 wins, but the Spurs, without Wembanyama, they are a good team, and they could generate a good season coming up. Those teams are likely to be a winning franchise over the next 3 seasons, which is about what Kevin Durant has left in his career. Especially for how tall and lengthy he is, his ACL tear, I don't think he has too much longer. You know, a guy like LeBron still playing at 40, it's not going to be like Kevin Durant in my mind. But at the same time, he is still a generational talent. Now, here is where things go up. We saw those odds. You saw how the Rockets were at number 4 in terms of betting odds. But Zach Lowe said this on his podcast. Again, Adam Wells of Bleacher Report has it, saying, quote, Lowe said he would put the Timberwolves at number 1 in the Buzz rankings in the Durant sweepstakes, with the Houston Rockets at number 2, end quote. Okay. So in this case, the Rockets are still in talks for Kevin Durant. Now, we know this morning they made the signing of Steven Adams, $12 million guaranteed a year over the next 3 seasons, is something that could change up the financials for this deal. However, it's been talked about, Jalen Green and Jabari Smith are probably going to be included in a deal for Kevin Durant if a deal is executed between the 2 franchises, Phoenix and Houston. That would clear up enough salary so that Kevin Durant could come out of the Houston Rockets and the first apron would still be within reach to keep under that mark. Obviously, Fred VanVleet's contract would have to be, for all intents and purposes, way lower than what expected. Now, again, it's going to happen soon. Obviously, we have reports from everybody, but Shams Charania is the guy that I trust. He is the one when he puts out a report, when he says something, the world listens. Pat McAfee had him on his show yesterday morning and said, quote, I think a Kevin Durant trade could happen in the next few days. Now, of course, obviously, Shams Charania did say that in the last 24 hours, the focus has been on the Rockets, the Heat, and the Minnesota Timberwolves. And according to reports, all 3 of them have made offers to the Phoenix Suns for Kevin Durant. Obviously, there's multiple different factors that go into this. This is not just a what team do the Phoenix Suns want, what is the best deal. It also involves Kevin Durant and his business partner, Rich Kleiman. It has been mentioned multiple times that when a trade is executed, it goes through all three parties. The Phoenix Suns, Kevin Durant and his business partner, Rich Kleiman, and the team who would be trading for Kevin Durant. That all would have to work out positively. I still believe the Phoenix Suns want the Houston Rockets. From what I'm hearing, it sounds like the Rockets' deal is Jalen Green, Jabari Smith Jr., and this year's number 10 overall pick. Supposedly, the Rockets are reluctant to be handing in that 2027 first-round pick the Suns. It belongs to the Suns, but the Rockets obviously haven't. I pretty much guarantee you that if the Rockets were to throw in that, it would probably change a lot of things. Now, here again, we have more reports coming in, of course, all the time. Quote, NBA insider Jake Fisher also reported Saturday that the Timberwolves and the Miami Heat are the two teams most frequently cited as a potential landing spot for Durant, end quote. So it's very obvious that from the betting odds, from all this, it seems like the San Antonio Spurs are out, which is a report that we had yesterday, although it was never fully confirmed. It seems as though it's now fully confirmed. The Spurs are not in this, and it is the Miami Heat, the Minnesota Timberwolves, and the Houston Rockets who are fighting to land Kevin Durant. Now, at the same time, the Timberwolves are the favorite. It seems like in terms of want, the Timberwolves are number one in wanting Kevin Durant. Miami Heat are probably number two and the Rockets number three. But the Rockets probably have the number one package and number one assortment of assets that the Phoenix Suns would want in a potential trade for Kevin Durant. They have the picks that Phoenix would like to have back. They have the young players to where they can have a Devin Booker and pair him with Jalen Green and Jabari Smith and have a good team next year and don't have to go full rebuild mode. That's not to say that Timberwolves couldn't do so. They have a good package put together, but they don't have as good of a package as the Rockets do. And that's where a lot of this kind of question marks comes this week. Now, just kind of to continue on throughout this report, kind of most of what we said here, but saying again from Adam Wells' Bleacher Report, quote, earlier this week, ESPN's Shams Charania said the T-Wolves, Rockets, Heat, and New York Knicks and San Antonio Spurs as the teams that have expressed interest in Durant. That list appears to have been narrowed down to Minnesota, Houston, and Miami, what we've talked about, with a deal possibly happening within the next week per Charania on Friday's episode of the Pat McAfee Show, end quote. So I'll have a little bit more context behind what Shams Charania said yesterday on Pat McAfee, and it's a big report because there's been talks that Kevin Durant's going to be traded within the next 72 hours. There's been talks he's going to be traded before next week. There's been talks that he's going to get traded before the trade deadline. There's a lot of things that are being talked about when it's going to happen. But we all know that Kevin Durant, wherever he goes, is going to make that team better. Even if it is the Rockets and they do have to give up Jalen Green and Jabari Smith Jr. Would it stink to see Jalen Green go? Yes. Would it stink to see Jabari Smith Jr. go? Yes. Would I have good knowledge knowing the Rockets re-sign Steven Adams, have Kevin Durant? They would really easily move Amin Thompson into a point guard role. Potentially you're keeping Fred VanVleet, and you still have that 2027 first-round pick from the Phoenix Suns. I feel very good. I know that Kevin Durant is older, and I know that the Rockets are a young team, but he would make this team better. And at the end of the day, unfortunately, I'm not Rafael Stone. You're not Rafael Stone. No one's Rafael Stone besides him. And the move he makes is going to be the one that we're going to have to root for. And the one that, if you want KD and we don't get him, then you're going to have to, be happy with the team that we have, or maybe look to see if there's other trades out there. And if you are a guy who's out there and you don't want KD on the Rockets roster and the Rockets trade for him, I'd have a hard time saying you wouldn't root for the guy and want him to come out here and succeed in Houston. So no matter what happens, big changes are on the horizon. And honestly, it could go in a multitude of different ways. Now, I did mention the Timberwolves being the favorite, but we don't have an official offer on exactly what their package would look like. But they have an interesting kind of complex to them. So we know how Fred VanVleet is on that team option. Well, they have a couple of players who are also potentially trade pieces, but they would have to opt in. Quote, it's unclear what Minnesota's offer to Phoenix for Durant would consist of. However, Julius Randle and Naz Reid can't be traded unless they both decide to opt in to their deals for next season, end quote. That hasn't happened yet. It seems like a deal would probably, the Phoenix Suns would likely have at least one of those players in Randle and Reid. Now, I think Naz is going to opt out. I don't think he even cares. Julius, I think, would opt in, which in that case, if he opts in, he could immediately be traded. So the timeline is very kind of hard here because the Suns want a deal done before this year's draft. They want a pick in this year's draft. But the Wolves have a timeline with these players that they would like to probably trade for Kevin Durant. So again, it goes back to the Timberwolves are the favorite, but we do not know what a package would look like. However, KD in a Wolves uniform with Anthony Edwards is a scary sight to see. The Western Conference will continue to be crazy, and it would be a very tough road to the Western Conference Finals, much less the Finals next year, if Kevin Durant did get traded to the Timberwolves. Because in that facet, I'm going to include them just because they've been in my nightmares ever since we've lost them in the playoffs once again. You'd think about the Warriors with Steph Curry still here. It seems like Jimmy Butler will be there too. Anthony Edwards and Kevin Durant on the Timberwolves. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and potentially a reigning defending champion Oklahoma City Thunder in the Western Conference. That would be what is ahead of you. There's also Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets. I say this with a hard heart, but the Rockets not trading for Durant, and if he goes to the Timberwolves, maybe a worse move just because that makes the Western Conference that much harder. Now, I believe wholeheartedly in this team, but that is a gauntlet of a playoffs for the Houston Rockets to try and convert through. That does it for us here on Rockets Digest. I do appreciate y'all joining us, and we will see you next time here. Peace out from H-Town.